Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. Upgrade your sleep with the award-winning Pod 4 Ultra by 8 Sleep, a smart mattress cover that fits easily over your existing mattress with adjustable temperature settings ranging from 55 to 110 degrees. You and your partner can each enjoy customized comfort on your own side of the bed. I keep mine at 60 to stay cool throughout the night. It even includes smart technology to adjust your mattress position, help reduce snoring. Plus, you'll have 30 days to see if it's the right fit for you. Visit 8sleep.com/Pacman and enter code Pacman for $350 off. The link is in the description. Finally, turn your desk into your dream workspace with an Uplift standing desk. Uplift Desk offers 200,000 different ways to customize your standing desk, limitless accessories, including power outlets and monitor arms. I've been using an Uplift Desk for so long, way before they became a sponsor. While you're working, a standing desk really gets the creative juices flowing. I don't know what I would do without mine. Go to upliftdesk.com/Pacman to get up to 5 free accessories, free same-day shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty, plus an extra discount off of your entire order. The link is in the description.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins, sitting in for David Pakman today. And folks, we have so much to cover, I really ought to jump in, but just to let you know what we've got coming up on this week's show, Donald Trump has his feelings hurt by the cover of Time magazine. J.D. Vance throws his wife under the bus to save a DOGE staffer for his racist posts on X. And of course, just non-stop chaos from the DOGE office in general. Attorney General Pam Bondi decides that going after DEI is far better than doing anything to help consumers. And the leader that the Democrats absolutely need has finally emerged. All of that and so much more is coming up on today's show, so let's jump right into it. On Friday, Donald Trump announced that he is finally taking on the issue that propelled him to the White House, the single biggest issue on the minds of every single American voter, no doubt about it. So he's bringing back plastic straws, right? Because again, I'm sure that everybody watching this, when you went to the polls in November, you said, well, I mean, you know, the economy's really not that great. It looks good on paper, but it's not working for me. I'm really concerned about what's happening in the Middle East. I'm concerned about Russia. I'm concerned about the environment here. I'm concerned about all these things, but none of those concerns were bigger than, of course, mushy paper straws. So on Friday, Donald Trump got on Truth Social and made this bold announcement. I will be signing an executive order next week ending the ridiculous Biden push for paper straws, which don't work. Back to plastic, he says. So there you have it. I mean, I guess all of our problems are solved in the United States of America today, right? I mean, you may not be able to afford beverages to put a straw in under Donald Trump's policies, but by God, if you ever get the chance to get a soda again, you can rest easy knowing that your straw will not get mushy because we are going back to plastic. Now, obviously, this was not an issue, I don't think you could find a single person in this country that cast their vote this past November based on plastic straws. I mean, I genuinely don't think you would find a single person who that was their biggest issue. I don't think you'd find a single person today that would say that, yes, the mushy paper straws are keeping me up at night. I had to talk to the kids at dinner and just say, I don't know about the future of our country because the mushy straws, right? No, nobody does that. This was not a thing that even needed to be done. And it's a distraction, as per usual. Because what happened on Friday at the same time that Donald Trump is out there telling us we're bringing back plastic? Well, one of the things that actually happened before Friday was the fact that we got new scientific reports out showing that the human brains that they have examined are showing about a spoon's worth of microplastics. So, you know, what a great time to bring plastic back at the time when we're finding microplastics, a spoonful of them, in human brains. So Thank you for that, Donald. But the bigger thing, I mean, I don't know if it's bigger. I mean, obviously plastic in the brain seems kind of like a big issue, but if you're more financially minded, what also happened on Friday was that we got the January jobs report. So at the same time Donald Trump is talking about plastic straws, we're getting a report showing us that the economy only added 143,000 jobs in January, well below the expectation of 169,000 jobs. Now, here's the thing. I'll give you this. President Biden was president of the United States for, 19 and a half of those days of January. Donald Trump only had 11 and a half days where he got to be president. So, all right. This was mostly Biden, but some Trump. However, Biden's out of office. Everything that happens from the moment Donald Trump gets sworn in, that's on him. So job growth in this country is slowing. It did not meet expectations. In fact, according to analysts, this was actually the worst jobs report that we have gotten since COVID. That's how bad it was. And yes, as President of the United States, this is on Donald Trump. Because let's not forget what's been happening so far in the month of February. We have had federal workers leave. We have had layoffs. We have more layoffs coming. We have had the mass deportations kick into high gear. Thousands of people, working people, kicked out of this country. So I imagine that as bad as that January jobs report was, it's probably going to be the best one that we see for the next 4 years. Because as it stands right now, Donald Trump doesn't have any actual ideas on how to create new jobs in this country. He doesn't actually have any plans to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Think of this. When Donald Trump decided last week to go ahead and pause the tariffs on Canada and Mexico, tariffs that, by the way, he had put in place for several reasons. Obviously, border security, drugs, but another one was to bring companies back to the United States, and a lot of people forgot about that, right? That he said that repeatedly. But nowhere in the concessions that either side made from either Canada or Mexico or the United States, none of the concessions included bringing manufacturing back to the United States. So no, Donald Trump's tariffs are not going to bring jobs back. He doesn't even seem to care about bringing jobs back. So again, at a time when the New York Times is telling us that, hey, job growth is clearly slowing in this country, that's not good. Trump has no plan to fix it. His only plan right now is to add to the unemployment rate by getting rid of all these federal employees and all of the immigrants. So these numbers are going to get much worse, and they're going to get much worse very quickly. Furthermore, while this nincompoop is sitting there boasting about plastic straws, we were also getting reports. Okay, we got microplastics in the brain. We got a bad jobs report. What other bad news could Trump be distracting us from? How about the fact that the price of eggs, which has already risen by 35% over the last 12 months, is expected to rise another 20% this year? I'm sure if you're like me, you've probably seen the photos on social media and the videos, people walking into grocery stores and, showing the price of eggs, some places as high as, $14, $15 per dozen. And that's not going to get any better. If the price of eggs right now is due to the fact that we are having to basically cull entire flocks of chickens due to bird flu, which is, what we're being told, and I do believe that. I'm not just saying we're being told. I believe it. Don't get me wrong. But we've kind of gutted already. Trump has the government institutions that deal with things like that. The places that put out the guidelines. The places that warn people, hey, bird flu has been in your area. Please protect your flocks. We've gotten rid of the reporting. We've gotten rid of the monitoring. We've gotten rid of the funding. That's frozen at the moment. So the price of eggs is going to get worse. But there's another part of that too, because chickens don't just produce eggs, right? What else do they produce? Meat for consumption. So the price of chicken in general at the grocery store is also going up. Again, those reports were coming out last week showing that. Again, same time Donald Trump's out there telling us about plastic straws being the greatest thing since sliced bread, gasoline prices started to go back up. In spite of Trump telling us he's going to drill, and that's going to lower prices for you, gas prices are going up. They're going up in a non-travel part of the year. A lot of people miss that. A lot of people don't necessarily put two and two together. We typically see gas prices go up a little starting in November around Thanksgiving time, a lot of travel, going through December, lots of holidays, through the new year. We'll see a little bit of it during spring break, and we usually see it during summertime. Prices tend to start going down in September, but they do fluctuate throughout the year. I know. I was a blogger at DeSmog Blog for many years where one of my main things was tracking the price of gasoline. So that's what happens. But for it to happen at the beginning of February, which is not a travel time of year, it is not a time when millions of Americans are going on vacation or traveling the country. That is not normal. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. Seeing gas prices increase at this time of year is a bad sign. On top of that, coffee prices, those are going through the roof. The price of many other consumer goods. We now have bird flu in cows that could drive up the cost of foods across the country. And of course, the mass deportations that are taking place are crippling some farms in this country already. So the price of every other food may go up very soon, very quickly. In other words, why the hell is the President of the United States focusing on plastic straws when consumers are continuing to get hammered, even though he promised us he was going to bring prices down? But, of course, a couple weeks after the election, he told us, well, you really can't do much about it. Now, can you? So here we are. A president of the United States that would rather focus on your straw not being mushy than on whether or not you can afford a straw in the first place. And speaking of members of the Trump administration not doing anything to help consumer prices, freshly minted Attorney General Pam Bondi, who has not even been on the job for a full week yet, has issued a memo directing the DOJ to go after any company, any publicly traded company that does DEI or DEIA. Because, again, apparently the DOJ has nothing better to do than to waste their time worrying if companies are training their employees to understand that, hey, other people in this country also exist. But on Wednesday, when Bondi was, of course, confirmed, sworn in, takes the job, in a span of 15 minutes, her office issued more than a dozen memos directing the DOJ under her guidance about what they were going to be doing. And it, of course, included things like going after sanctuary cities, bringing back the death penalty, and enforcing a very strict return to office policy. But then was the memo on DEI. And that memo, little selection of it here from Slate, said, quote, she wants a list of business sectors of concern within the Department of Justice and the most egregious and discriminatory DEI and DEIA practitioners in each sector of concerns. It also asks for, quote, litigation activities and other strategies to target these private sector companies, evidently envisioning a coordinated agency-wide onslaught that would divert many attorneys' attention away from their normal areas of practice. Her plan from the Civil Rights Division and Office of Legal Policy wants, quote, specific steps or measures to deter the use of DEI and DEIA programs or principles, as well as proposals for criminal investigations and up to 9 potential civil compliance investigations of these companies within the sectors of concern. And of course, this applies to publicly traded companies, which is mentioned several times throughout the entirety of the memo. The DOJ right now could be working on going after corporate price gougers. They could be looking into these companies that are screwing you over and artificially driving up the prices that you pay at the grocery store, that you pay at the gas pump, or that you pay for electronics or home goods or whatever it is. Because we know that is happening. And the reason we know that that is happening is because during the time, a year or two ago when we had massive inflation, these CEOs were on record telling us point blank, yes, we have raised our prices more than inflation was because we could. That's when we do it. In times of hyperinflation, these companies artificially raise their prices because they know that inflation will eventually go down and the price will go down, but it'll never hit that original before inflation because of the excess prices they're now charging us so they can put more money in their pockets. The DOJ could be going after them. The DOJ could be going after the corporate polluters. The DOJ could be doing one of a million things, but instead, under Pam Bondi's guidance, they're going after any publicly traded company that engages in what she feels is DEI. And we've already seen a lot of companies out there drop all their DEI training, all their DEI initiatives, all of it gone because they don't want to be on this list of companies, right? I mean, she's telling everybody, hey, everybody, you here, you, give me 9. You, give me 9 companies. You come up with another 9 companies. What an arbitrary and honestly weird number, right? Why not just go to 10? Why not make it a nice even number? Maybe 5. What happens if they can't come up with 9? Do they get fired? Do you just get rid of that department of the DOJ? I mean, her memo didn't really go into detail about what's going to happen, but what we do know is that if you're a company and you're teaching your employees or having training sessions explaining to them to treat people, like equals, treat them with kindness, accept the fact that other people that don't look like you or sound like you exist, well, if you're doing that, you may be going to jail, according to Pam Bondi. Look, we got to take a quick break. If you want more from me, I'm Farron Cousins. You can find me on 2 different YouTube channels, youtube.com/TheRingOfFire and youtube.com/FarronBalanced. And I'm also all across social media, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads at Farron Balanced. This is The David Pakman Show, and we'll be right back.
Experience better sleep with the Pod 4 Ultra by 8 Sleep, one of today's sponsors. The Pod 4 Ultra is a smart mattress cover that fits easily over your existing mattress to regulate temperature throughout the night. You can choose a setting anywhere from 55 to 110 degrees. I like 60. I don't like getting hot when I sleep, and it makes a huge difference. If you share your bed, each side can be independently controlled. You have one temperature, your partner has another. The pod will also monitor your sleep and check out the patterns of sleep to automatically adjust the temperature to optimize rest. Snoring is no problem. The pod can gently elevate your head to reduce snoring when detected, leading to a better night's sleep for you and your partner. You can try the Pod 4 Ultra, 30 nights with no risk. If it's not a good fit, send it back. My guess is you'll try it and want to keep it. Go to 8sleep.com/Pakman. Use the code Pakman for $350 off your Pod 4 Ultra. The link is in the description. If you work at a desk like I do, I often find myself sort of discouraged because I'm sitting for a long time, or at least I used to, until I found Uplift Desk. Uplift Desk is at the forefront of ergonomic solutions, promoting better posture and health through adjustable standing desks. And I've been using Uplift standing desks for years, long before they became a sponsor. One of my favorite things about Uplift Desk is the endless configuration of accessories. I've got cable management, power outlets, monitor arms to my right. If you want a bottle opener or a hammock, they make that available too. Uplift Desk gives way more options for building your perfect workspace, and they make it easy with the Desk Configurator tool on their website with over 200,000 possible combinations. If you're looking for comfort, Uplift Desk also offers seating options, footrests, balancing boards, standing pads, which I have. Go to upliftdesk.com/Pakman to get up to 5 free accessories, free same-day shipping, free returns, an industry-leading 15-year warranty that covers the whole desk, and an extra discount off of your entire order. The link is in the description.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire and Fair and Balanced, sitting in for David today. Well, in case you hadn't been paying attention, there's been a little bit of drama taking place over at Elon Musk's DOGE office with regard to an, I guess you'd call him on-again, off-again employee named Marco Elez. Last week, the Wall Street Journal revealed that Mr. Elez had in fact been tied to a Twitter/X account that as recently as September had been posting some pretty nasty racist things on social media, including things like normalize Indian hate and, for the record, I was racist before it was cool, and you could never pay me enough to marry outside of my ethnicity. That, of course, among several other things, including pushing for a, what was it? Eugenic immigration policy. Some of those posts were from this past summer. The rest of them, of course, took place around September. So these posts were not even a year old. And that, of course, is important because this 25-year-old employee, once the Wall Street Journal started asking the Trump administration, hey, what do y'all think about this, immediately resigned, which is good. He should have resigned. But then on Friday, Elon Musk decided maybe this guy shouldn't resign, even though he did so voluntarily because of what was coming out. Elon Musk got on his own social media platform, Twitter, and decided to put out a poll. Should he be rehired? And one of the people who actually, I'm assuming, voted in it, but also responded to that poll was none other than Vice President J.D. Vance, who, of course, happens to be married to a woman from India. You know, the same country where Marco Elez said normalize Indian hate. J.D. Vance has 3 children. So you would think J.D. Vance would be like, yeah, maybe this guy should go. His attacks on India are an attack on my wife. They're an attack on my kids. But no. J.D. Vance said this. Here's my view. I obviously disagree with some of Elez's posts. Some. Not all. Like, yeah, I don't disagree with all of them. Holy hell, wow. But I don't think stupid social media activity should ruin a kid's life. We shouldn't reward journalists who try to destroy people ever. So I say, bring him back. If he's a bad dude or a terrible member of the team, fire him for that. So first of all, which ones of his posts do you agree with? That's the question I have. Because you said you disagree with some of them. You didn't have to add that qualifier in there, but you did. And now I want answers on that, and I think everybody in this country is entitled to answers on that question. Which ones of his posts do you agree with, Vice President Vance? Furthermore, if he's a bad dude, like he's literally attacking your wife in this. Maybe not by name, but definitely by ethnicity. So what in your mind also, this I guess would be a follow-up question, constitutes somebody being a bad dude? Right? I would think saying I was racist before it was cool, which is one thing he did post, I would think that would make somebody a bad dude. But perhaps me and the vice president just have different standards, I guess. But I really think the public needs to demand answers to those questions. But then, of course, after J.D. Vance posts this, Elon Musk came out and he said he will be brought back. To err is human, to forgive divine. And Vance, of course, had referred to him as a kid. Shouldn't ruin a kid's life. First of all, he was 25. Second of all, these posts all took place within the last year. I mean, not even within the last year. Within the last 9 months. It's not like these were youthful indiscretions that he did at age 14. He was making these posts while you were the vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance. Okay, like, I don't know what more y'all want in order to make somebody untouchable, right? Like, we don't want to touch them. We don't want them anywhere near it. oh, he shouldn't ruin this kid's life. No, but this kid is being given access to information that could ruin other people's lives. You seem to be fine with that. And of course, J.D. Vance, again, married to a woman from India, was called out by Democratic Representative Ro Khanna. Ro Khanna said this, quote, "Are you going to tell him to apologize for saying normalize Indian hate before this rehire? Just asking for the sake of both of our kids." And the Vice President of the United States responded to the Democratic representative by saying, quote, "Racist trolls on the internet, while offensive, don't threaten my kids. You know what does? A culture that denies grace to people who make mistakes. A culture that encourages congressmen to act like whiny children. You disgust me," the Vice President of the United States said. You, Ro Khanna, are the one that is disgusting here, not the person who posted the racist things that, of course, impact Ro Khanna's family and, of course, J.D. Vance's family. That's not disgusting to J.D. Vance, but Ro Khanna calling it out is. And here's the thing. Forgiveness, right? Mercy, as J.D. Vance is calling for. Marco Elez hasn't asked for that. Marco Elez hasn't apologized. I mean, that's literally what Ro Khanna said. Are you going to ask him to apologize? You don't give somebody forgiveness if they are not sorry. That's not how it works. If they're not seeking forgiveness, then there's nothing to forgive them for. But we can't legislate morality, even though Republicans try to do it. And so this is where we are. I guess this kid is getting brought back so that he can bring his normalized Indian hate right back into the DOGE office, where apparently that's not a disqualifying thing to say. But if you think that Mr. Elez is the only problematic person in Elon Musk's gaggle of teenage weirdos, then think again. Reports have come out showing us that yet another DOGE employee also has a very questionable past. This time, not about racist posts on social media, but about not being a trustworthy person who was fired as a contractor for a cybersecurity firm called Path Network because an internal investigation found out that he was leaking company secrets. This employee at DOGE is a man by the name of Edward Korestein, who was fired from cybersecurity firm Path Network in 2022 for, quote, leaking internal information to the competitors. A spokesperson for Path Network said, quote, "I can confirm that Edward Korestein's brief contract was terminated after the conclusion of an internal investigation into the leaking of proprietary company information that coincided with his tenure." But a report from the New Republic, goes even further. They said several people who knew Korestein said they were confused as to how he ascended to such a consequential position and nervous as to how he'll handle the enormous responsibility that comes with it, given that he could not handle it at Path Network. So you're fired from a cybersecurity firm because you're leaking their secrets. And now, as a member of DOGE, he has access, well, basically to everything. Whether it's your private data, whether it's the payment information from the federal government, the payment systems. And the people who know him are like, hey, this is probably not a good idea. When do we start listening to the people who know the people best, right? Because we should be listening to the people who know Korestein saying, yeah, not sure this is great. Just like we should have listened in the 2024 election to all of the people who had worked with Donald Trump in the past, who had known him privately, personally, who kept telling everybody, hey, this is a dangerous idea to put him back in the White House. When somebody who knows somebody deeply, knows them greatly, has known them for years, is telling you, multiple people, by the way, not just one, but multiple different people, with no skin in the game at all, telling you that this person is bad. Doesn't matter which person it is, whether it's this guy at DOGE, whether it's Elon Musk himself, whether it's Pete Hegseth, whether it's Donald Trump or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. The people who know these people best have told us openly, publicly, whether they wanted to or not, that these are bad people, that these are people that should not be in the positions that they are in. Do not put them there. And then time after time after time, we always ignore it. You know, that to a degree is on us at that point. Because if we had listened to the people who warned us about Donald Trump, the people who worked with him, right? Not just the pundits, not just the Democrats, but the people who knew him best. If we had listened to them, we wouldn't be having conversations about Hegseth or Kennedy or Musk or these little DOGE staffers. None of that would be taking place. But we ignored the warnings on Trump. As a country, we ignored it. And that brought these new people who we got warnings about. And the Republicans in the Senate also ignored the warnings about those people. We have seen the DOGE office, Elon Musk, openly say, hey, yeah, we know we had a racist guy here, but bring him back, right? They're ignoring the own warnings from their own people. Like, that's not even coming from other folks. It's coming from the people themselves. Like, hey, I may be a bad dude. And they continue to ignore it. And the government, the country, is going to ultimately be the ones paying the price for that. And in other Elon Musk news, as if we needed any more, but according to a new report from The Lever, when Donald Trump carried out his recent midnight massacre, firing the inspectors general from multiple different government agencies, he also managed to do a massive favor for his good buddy, Elon Musk, who of course dumped $288 million into the presidential election. By firing these inspectors general, Donald Trump fired 5 of them who either had previously investigated Elon Musk or were in the process of investigating Elon Musk. Here is what The Lever reported. At the Department of Agriculture, where the Inspector General's office was probing alleged animal abuse at Musk's brain implant company Neuralink, Inspector General and 22-year USDA veteran Phyllis Fong was escorted out of her office by security guards last Monday. Department of Defense Inspector General Robert Storch was fired just months after he reportedly opened a review into repeated failures by Musk and his rocket company SpaceX to properly disclose their contact with foreign leaders. The Department of Transportation, which oversees the National Transportation Safety Board, had its Inspector General fired as safety regulators oversaw several open probes into Tesla, which of course is his electric vehicle company, over its remote and self-driving vehicles. The same goes for the Environmental Protection Agency, where investigators have settled multiple lawsuits with Tesla in recent years over Clean Air Act and hazardous waste law violations. Trump also fired the Inspector General at the Department of Labor, which oversees the National Labor Relations Board. The board has 17 open investigations against Musk's companies, Tesla and SpaceX, for alleged unfair labor practices, safety violations, and discriminatory work practices. With those inspectors general being fired, likely illegally, because you have to give Congress a 30 days notice if you plan to remove these people, which Trump obviously did not, because he hadn't even been in office for 30 days yet. But with these firings, these investigations are likely dead. Because these inspectors general are not going to be replaced by people who are going to come in there guns blazing and just investigate all this corporate malfeasance. God, no. These are individuals that are going to come in and make sure that we're not doing DEI at the EPA or at the National Transportation Safety Board or in the Labor Department. All of these investigations into Elon Musk, investigations that happened because of horrific reports given to the federal government, are likely gone. So that $288 million that Elon Musk spent helping Donald Trump buy the 2024 election, it paid dividends for him. I mean, he has already seen his net worth in general skyrocket by billions of dollars since Donald Trump won. He's doing better than ever, right? And now, on top of having even more money than he already had, he doesn't have to worry about any kind of criminal fines or penalties because those investigations are not coming back. I am Farron Cousins, in for David Pakman. Don't forget, you can also find me on my 2 YouTube channels, both Fair and Balanced and Ring of Fire, youtube.com/The Ring of Fire, youtube.com/Fair and Balanced, across social media at Fair and Balanced. Doesn't matter what the platform is, that'll be my handle. I'm sitting in for David Pakman on The David Pakman Show, and we'll be right back.
Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com, joinpakman.com.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire and Fair and Balanced, sitting in for David Pakman today. Well, Donald Trump is, of course, on his path of revenge against everyone and everything that he feels has wronged him over the years. And on Friday evening, the target of his ire was none other than former President Joe Biden. Donald Trump got on Truth Social and announced in a very lengthy post that he was terminating President Biden's security clearance, which of course will also cancel his daily national intelligence briefings. Here is what Donald Trump wrote. There is no need for Joe Biden to continue receiving access to classified information. Therefore, we are immediately revoking Joe Biden's security clearances and stopping his daily intelligence briefings. He set this precedent in 2024 when he instructed the intelligence community to stop the 45th President of the United States, me, from accessing details on national security, a courtesy provided to former presidents. The Her report revealed that Biden suffers from poor memory and, even in his prime, could not be trusted with sensitive information. I will always protect our national security. Joe, you're fired. Make America great again. Now, of course, the Her report, which was hugely biased, did, of course, make mention of President Biden's poor memory because he didn't remember certain details about his son's death, but also actually remembered far more intricate details of it, as we got to see in the full transcript. But former President Biden, no more national security briefings, which honestly is probably a relief, right? I mean, you're clearly not going to run for president ever again. You're not going to be involved in government ever again. Why do we even have this in place, right? That seems like not a good idea. Now listen, I'm not saying it's just not a good idea for Biden. I'm saying in general, why does a former president still get intelligence briefings, right? This is now a private citizen going about their private lives, but to keep getting secure, why? Like, that's what I want to know. I really genuinely am curious. Why do we still do that? I mean, that seems like a bad idea no matter who the former president is, no matter what their mental capacity is. Maybe we shouldn't be doing that at all in general. But I will say in this specific case, it really has nothing to do with President Biden's mental capacities, whether he has memory issues, whether he has other problems, or whether he's perfectly fine. None of that factored into Donald Trump's decision. This was 100% because Donald Trump had his national security clearances and daily briefings stripped from him in 2021, because at the time, President Biden described Donald Trump's behavior as erratic. And we all saw it. This was a man who, of course, inspired a coup against the federal government, the Capitol riot on January 6, 2021. This was a man who was impeached twice. This was a man who was having, kind of unsavory relationships with foreign leaders. This was a man who owned a golf resort in Mar-a-Lago where on multiple different occasions, spies from other country were caught on the property. One of them with multiple cell phones. So yeah, not exactly the most trustworthy guy. And we didn't even know it at the time, but this was also when Donald Trump had stolen all of those classified documents. So even before that revelation, Biden was like, hey, this guy can't be trusted. let's not keep giving him all of our national security information. Probably not a great idea. But again, in general, that's probably not something we should do. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Now, if you were to have somebody who maybe serves one term and made it abundantly clear, yes, I am running again, or I'm going to run for Senate, I'm going to run for House, I could kind of see why that might be helpful or necessary. But even then, that's tenuous at best. I still think, just as a rule of thumb, we ought to be like, listen, thank you for your service to the country. We're not going to keep telling you things because you're no longer the president. So adios, right? Like, happy trails, best wishes, all that. I mean, look, I'm sure President Biden is not going to be losing any sleep because he's no longer able to get his intelligence briefings. Pretty sure he's not going to be crying into his pillow at night because he doesn't get his security clearances that he's literally never going to use again. So Donald Trump may think that he's being vengeful and haha, I got you, buddy. But really, you're just coming across as a petty little tyrant throwing a temper tantrum because you're mad that the same thing happened to you, so you're doing it to a guy who could not care less about it. So you may think you won, but I'm pretty sure Biden's laughing about this. Oh, and by the way, speaking of things that are getting under Donald Trump's skin, it's not just that Biden revoked his security clearance. Another thing that got under Donald Trump's skin within the last few days alone is the new cover of Time magazine. In case you haven't seen it, Time magazine is out with a new cover that shows Elon Musk sitting behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, of course implying that Elon Musk is in fact the individual that is calling the shots for the United States of America today. This goes along with the Democrats calling him President Musk and Vice President Trump. And we know that those claims in the past that Elon Musk is running things, and I say in the past, guy's been president for 3 weeks now. But anyway, it's really gotten under Donald Trump's skin to the point where just a couple weeks ago, the White House had to come out and say, no, Trump is in charge. This was right before the inauguration. His spokespeople said, listen, Elon Musk is going to do great work, but Donald Trump is the guy calling the shots. Make no mistake about it. Everything goes through Trump. They actually echoed that this past week with Elon Musk as well. Like, oh, he's doing great work, but make no mistake. Everything he does comes through me. It comes through this White House. He doesn't do anything unless we approve it. And then Time comes out with the cover on Friday, and Donald Trump just in shambles. So while he's meeting on Friday with the Japanese Prime Minister, a reporter asks him, hey, do you have a comment about the Time magazine cover? And Donald Trump says, no. And then after a second or two, after saying no, this guy looks up at the reporter and says, is Time magazine still in business? I didn't even know that. So he tries to take a dig at Time magazine, right? Like, oh, they're so insignificant. I didn't even know if they existed anymore. Who reads Time magazine? Who cares about it? Certainly not me. I don't even know if they exist. This is the same guy who 2 months ago was on the cover of Time magazine as the person of the year. He also sat for a lengthy interview for that piece. So for him to sit there and say, like, I didn't even know they were still in business. Yeah, you did. And you hyper-focus on them because it is very important to you. You're trying to act like, oh, it's no big deal if they put him on the cover behind my desk. I totally don't care. But you do. And it's driving you crazy. And I love every second of it because it hurts you so deeply. And you being a guy that doesn't know how to even process his emotions is just absolutely hilarious to me. And I'm going to soak in every single second of it because I'm enjoying watching you hurt and not knowing how to properly process what you're feeling inside. But Then Donald Trump, again, knowing full well that Time Magazine still exists, because again, he sat for the interview. He celebrated the release of the cover by ringing the bell on Wall Street. You know, like a little kid who got straight A's on their report card. So it's like, okay, you get to ring the dismissal bell. You get to make the announcements for the school. That's what he is. So he knew they existed. Don't fall for his crap. But then he goes off on this tangent about Elon Musk. And he says, Elon is doing a great job. He's finding tremendous fraud and corruption and waste. You see it with USAID, but you're going to see it even more so with other agencies and other parts of government. He's got a staff that's fantastic. Now, it's important to remember that he said this the day after that staffer resigned after being tied to those horrifically racist posts on Twitter. So a staff that's fantastic if you ignore the racist and you ignore the guy that was fired from his previous job for leaking secrets. Other than that, totally great children he has running that department. He's wanted to be able to do this for a long time, but everybody else knew it was existent. But I think never so much. When you look at USAID, that's a fraud. The whole thing is a fraud. Very little being put to good use. Every single line that I look at in terms of events and transactions is either corrupt or ridiculous. And we're going to be doing that through our government. There it is. That's the line. Did you pick it up? I hope you did. Because he's like, I'm going through it. Every line that I see is total waste, total fraud, total abuse. So he's praising Elon, right? Because that's what they want to talk about. But then he's got to throw in there like, but make no mistake. I'm the one going through it. I'm the one finding these things. Not Elon. But Elon's doing great. He's a great guy. Wonderful. Doing great things with a terrific staff. You're not doing any of it. You're really not. Oh, and by the way, they're really not finding the things that they think they are. They've actually released, plenty of like, oh, look what we found. And it's nothing. It's gigantic nothing burgers that are either totally taken out of context, misconstrued, misrepresented to the public, or the funds are so insignificant as to not even matter in the first place. That's what we're seeing here. But according to Donald Trump, Elon's doing a great job, but only because Trump is letting him do it. Now, that, of course, is not the only weird interaction Donald Trump had with reporters last week. While Donald Trump was signing his executive order banning transgender athletes from playing in sports, specifically just transgender women from playing in women's sports, which according to statistics, I think affects 5 people in the United States. 5. So he signed an executive order specifically to screw over 5 people. But nevertheless, he signs this executive order. And then he starts talking to reporters. And it's at this point where his brain just totally breaks. Here's what he said after signing that bigoted executive order. The room is packed. I offered to build a ballroom. I'm very good at building ballrooms. I build beautiful ballrooms. And I actually offered to build a ballroom for the White House. I was going to build it right there, he said, pointing off into the distance. I was going to build a beautiful, beautiful ballroom like I have at Mar-a-Lago. As beautiful as it can be. It was going to cost about $100 million. I offered to do it, and I never heard back. So I'm going to try to make the offer to myself, because we could use a bigger room. Now, ballrooms, the press, offering to give yourself a government contract to build something that you actually say you're going to pay for yourself, but clearly you're not. None of those were the topic at hand. None of them. But something interesting that I picked up in that statement from Donald Trump, not only was it wildly off topic and not related to anything that they're, discussing, he used the word ballroom 5 times. In just these couple of sentences here, like 6 sentences, 5 times he uses the word ballroom. 4 times he used the adjective beautiful. 3 of them in one sentence, right? I was going to build a beautiful, beautiful ballroom like I have at Mar-a-Lago, as beautiful as it can be. The same word 3 times in one sentence. So after I read that, for no reason in particular, I decided to look up some of the warning signs of dementia. And wouldn't you know it, repetitive speech is a common behavior in people with dementia. It's also known as perseveration. Some of the causes for people with dementia to be repeating words over and over and over include basic memory loss. People with dementia may not remember what they've said or done. Emotional state. They may feel anxious, confused, or insecure. Or environmental factors. They may be bored, uncomfortable, or have a physical need. Some examples of this repetition that you see in people with dementia: repeating a word, phrase, or question. Yeah. Repeating a story or information. Yeah. Using the same answer to multiple questions. Well, he wasn't asked a question about it. Staying stuck on a topic. Definitely one that we see with this guy. The reason I even bring this up is because before the 2024 election, we started to get more and more and more reports from mental health professionals. You know, one of them, even in the New York Times, did a big piece on it, of all of these health professionals warning us that there was something dangerously wrong with Donald Trump's mental capacity. You know, psychological components, potentially neurological components. So not just, you know, the thoughts and feelings, but also the physiology of the brain itself. All of these people were out there telling us, we see the signs. We know what's happening. You know, short of being able to get brain scans, typically these are warning signs. And nobody listened. And now that, you know, ever since the election, those stories disappeared. His mental issues clearly didn't disappear, but the stories did. The warnings did. I mean, not saying that those mental health professionals just went on their merry way and said to hell with it. No. I think at this point they're like, well, we did what we could. What else can we do? The guy's president now. We have no authority. We can't convince people to get rid of him. He's there. But the warning signs were there. The stories were there. The people, the experts were there. You know, if President Biden had said something like this, the press would still be talking about it today. And again, this happened last Wednesday. They'd still be talking about it. All the Sunday talk shows this past weekend would have been nothing but Biden's got some serious issues. He's repeating words all the time. They would have brought on the mental health professionals. They'd be calling, you know, to use the Constitution to get him out of office. But not with Trump. With Trump, it's just another day. It's just the way he is. No. These are warning signs. And whenever we see them, we need to address them not as Trump being weird or crazy online or in front of reporters. We need to call them what they are, because these are symptoms. I'm Farron Cousins, in for David Pakman. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
If you value what we do at the David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind-the-scenes videos, the daily bonus show, the commercial-free daily show. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Farron Cousins from Ring of Fire and Farron Balance, sitting in for David today. And don't forget, if you have enjoyed me, or honestly, even if you didn't, go check out my other channels. Again, you can find those at youtube.com/Farron Balanced and youtube.com/The Ring of Fire. And from even more from me, you can find me across social media: Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, at Farron Balanced. We still have a lot more to talk about today, so let's jump right into it. As we all know, the Trump administration is working overtime in order to try to kill the United States Department of Education. Elon Musk came out just a few days ago and announced that, hey, the DOE is dead. And of course, Republicans introduced legislation in January that would effectively kill the United States Department of Education, effective on December 31st of the year 2026, if that legislation passes. Right now, it's still in committee, has not gone to a floor vote, but the legislation exists, and of course, that's a big piece of the puzzle. Because Donald Trump as President of the United States, Elon Musk as co-president of the United States, I guess we'll call him, they cannot get rid of a government agency. The only way to do that is through the same kind of legislation that created it. And Republicans do have majorities in both the House and Senate, but their majority in the House is razor thin, so who knows if they'll be able to pass it. But in the meantime, the destruction of the Department of Education is continuing. They're doing it by moving people out of the department, basically reducing the staff to the point where it becomes dysfunctional, and then they're going to try to use that dysfunction as an excuse to get rid of it. It is this planned incompetence is what we need to look at it as. And of course, this was put in motion decades ago by Republican Grover Norquist. He said he wanted to shrink the government so small that you could drown it in a bathtub. And you do that by crippling these institutions from the inside out and then using the dysfunction that you created to show the public, well, look how poor they are. Look how awful they are. The whole department is nothing but chaos. We need to get rid of it. And the public looks at it and says, well, yeah, you're right. It is doing pretty bad. Let's get rid of the department. And that's how you gain support for it. And right now, across the country, there is actually a decent amount of Republican support for getting rid of the U.S. Department of Education, which would be an unmitigated disaster here in the United States for everybody. But as per usual, nobody would suffer more from the destruction of the Department of Education than Donald Trump's own voters. A new report from Axios has revealed that, yes, indeed, red states would be hit the hardest if we got rid of the Department of Education. Here is what they wrote. States that voted for Trump last November, on average, use more federal funding in their education apportions than states that voted for the former Vice President Harris. That dependence is, in large part, because they're just lower wealth states and they don't have the same capacity to step in and make up that difference. Average federal spending in the 2021-2022 school year was 17% in Trump voting states, compared to 11% in states that voted for Harris. At 23%, Mississippi had the highest proportion of federal public school funding that school year, with South Dakota and Arkansas following with 22% each. New York, at 7%, had the lowest, but New York still spends $33,440 per student per year, while Mississippi only spends $12,390 per student per year. So New York, blue state, spends more per student than any other state in the country and still takes less from the federal government than every other state in the country to fund their education system. So, red states are going to take the biggest hit. But you may be thinking to yourself, Farron, they're just getting rid of the department. They're not getting rid of the funding. The funding just won't have to go through the DOE. It'll be sent out to the states directly. Sure. And who's going to look over their shoulders to make sure that they're actually spending it on education? Because we're not going to have a Department of Education to do that, which is what they do now already. When these states, if the Department of Education is destroyed, right? When these states start getting this money from the federal government, because yes, I do think the federal government would still spend money. Nobody's looking over their shoulders to make sure it's actually going to education, because the states that need to be spending it on education are not just experiencing budget shortfalls in the education arena. They're experiencing budget shortfalls across the board, especially states like Mississippi, states like Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Oklahoma, Kansas. So when you have states that desperately need more money to continue to function, and they get this money, even though it's, you got to spend it on education, what they will do is they'll just pass a quick law that says any federal funding we received is now at the discretion of the governor of the state. And that governor can choose to reapportion funds to it, blah, blah, blah. We've seen it happen in the past. So suddenly the money they are getting from the federal government to bolster the schools doesn't go to the schools. You don't get Title I funding at all anymore. which of course is what's keeping a lot of these lower income red states afloat. So that would be gone already. So whatever federal funding you get is still going to be far less than what you're receiving now. The bottom line is that it's a disaster. Teachers will suffer. The children will suffer. Education overall is going to be destroyed in this country. And that's the plan. That is the goal. That is what they're trying to do here. And they don't care that the very people who put them in power are the ones who are going to suffer the most. Just like pretty much all of Donald Trump's other policies that are disproportionately affecting red states and his voters the most, and he simply doesn't care. Finally today, after talking nonstop about Republicans, let's talk about Democrats, right? They also still exist. They may not be in the majority anywhere anymore, but Democrats do still exist. They do still hold a little bit of power. The problem is in the Democratic Party today, they got no leaders, okay? We got a couple people every now and then that'll come out and say something profound or meaningful, but no real single leader. You know, it's definitely not Chuck Schumer. It's definitely not Nancy Pelosi. It's definitely not Ken Martin, who just won the chairmanship of the DNC. So who is the leader right now? Well, if you ask me, based on the things they have been doing and the things they have been saying, the person who needs to be the leader of the Democratic Party right now is none other than Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I'm going to point to two specific things that AOC has said within the last week alone that show that she understands what is happening in this country, I think, just as well or better than any other Democrat in office today. Because it's not about performative issues, okay? It's not about holding a press conference and saying, we're mad at these people. Oh, we don't like it. That's great. That's great. It accomplishes nothing, but if it makes you feel better, Democratic leaders, go ahead and do it. In terms of changing or fixing anything, that does absolutely nothing, and I don't care for it. AOC, on the other hand, got on social media, did a video. Not a fancy video, didn't have reporters all around her. She just had her phone and herself. And here is what she told American citizens. I want you all to understand that if you are watching the news right now and you are feeling overwhelmed by all the constant headlines and developments and what's happening, first of all, know that you are not alone. And second of all, know that that is exactly what this administration is trying to get you to feel. What authoritarian regimes try to do is they often try to do what is known as flood the zone. It's important for you to understand that the paralysis and shock that you feel right now is the point. They are trying to induce a state of passivity among the general public. We need to try. I don't want to hear, oh, we can't do that. That's impossible. That's called consenting in advance. So when your mind says it's all over, we might as well, no. Do not be discouraged by temporary defeats. We keep going anyway. When we are relentless, they will fatigue. They can only hold this up for so long. I think that is a powerful message, and I think it's a message that the Democratic Party needs to deliver to the public at large. Because she's absolutely right about the flooding the zone thing. I mean, Stephen Miller, one of Donald Trump's top aides in the White House, literally said before they came into office, that's what they were going to do. Steve Bannon, back in the first Trump administration, came out publicly and said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to drive you crazy, send you into this fatigue by giving you so much insanity at once, you can't focus on anything. And I think for the most part, the main Democratic Party has already fallen into that trap. 8 days after Donald Trump issued his pardon for the Capitol rioters, 8 days later, because a lot of crazy crap happened in between that, but 8 days later, what did the Democrats do? They called reporters and they held a press conference to talk about how they were unhappy about the pardons of the Capitol rioters. 8 days later. Everybody else had kind of already been like, well, this sucks, but we know we can't change it. We've moved on. Trump went on and did his midnight massacre of the inspectors generals, all these executive orders, the mass deportations had started. So there were already like a dozen bigger outrages since then. And then Democrats were like, all right, let's go to our podium, and if I can stand here for 5 minutes and talk, that'd be great. No. AOC gets it. I don't think the rest of the party does. But if you're not sold on her being the leader, then let me give you this. Last Sunday, she went on a podcast, Latino USA. She went on a podcast to talk about Donald Trump's mass deportations, as well as what that is going to do to consumer prices here in the United States. And she said one line that absolutely made me realize that she gets it in a way that most people do not. She said, first of all, for all the people who cast a vote based on grocery prices and inflation, if you think your groceries are expensive now, wait until the farms are empty. And then she said this, but let's be clear. The people who are voting in this way oftentimes don't respond to a case of compassion and humanity. That's the line. And she goes on and she says, if you want to be hard-nosed about it, understand that America's immigration force and our community of immigrants, including especially the millions of undocumented people in this country, are why America has prospered. If you think houses are expensive now, wait until there's no one building them. If you think that having someone in your home take care of your ailing mother or grandmother while you have to go out and earn an honest living while you're at work, if you think that's expensive now, wait until that immigrant workforce is gone. So she's saying, understand the consequences of what this means. But she's talking in different terms. We all understand. You are watching this program today because I'm assuming you understand the humanity and compassion side of it. Okay? Just like you understand the humanity and compassion of foreign affairs, whatever they may be. You understand the disaster side of climate change and what that means for humanity. But I've been saying this for years. In fact, several years ago, doing a fill-in right here for David, I talked about this. There are some issues that, even though there is mostly a humanitarian side to them, you can't talk about them in those terms because most people are not moved by them. And specifically at the time, I was referring to climate change. So what I said then, which is exactly what AOC is doing here, is, okay, you don't want to hear the humanitarian side of it. You don't want to hear the, environmental side of it. What if I break it down and talk to you about these issues in economic terms? And that's what she's doing. Because she does understand that, listen, most people don't want to see these immigrants and migrants be tortured or be arrested and have horrible things happen to them. Most people don't want to see that at all. But at the end of the day, they don't experience it. What they do experience is the financial hardship that comes from those people getting kicked out. So appealing to somebody's humanity can only go so far, because when it's not affecting them directly, it is very easy to just push it out of your head. Like, God, that sucks. Man, I hate seeing this on the news. So buy news. Whew, okay, well, that's gone. Now, you may think that's flippant, but that is the way that the majority of people in this country, think. Once it's off the television or once they've scrolled past that video, whatever hurt they felt is gone, or it will be gone in the next 5 minutes. So you have to change the way you address the topics. You have to come at these things in a unique approach to actually get people to care about it, because the humanitarian side, I'm sorry, it's just not going to sell. And AOC understood that when she did this podcast, and that's what she's talking about. If you don't want to talk about how horrible it is that we're treating these people like vermin, then what if I broke it down and I made it relate to you economically and how it's going to personally impact your life? Then you're going to think about it even longer, okay? It's not going to be gone once you scroll past that video. It's still going to exist. And that is how you change minds. That is how you change voting habits. And that is how you get people to care about issues that they can otherwise push right out of their heads. That is why I think she is the leader that the Democratic Party desperately needs right now. That's all the time we have for today. I will be back tomorrow. And in the meantime, again, I encourage everybody, please go subscribe to my YouTube channels, youtube.com/FarronBalanced, youtube.com/TheRingOfFire. I'm at Farron Balanced across all of social media. And we've got a wonderful bonus show coming up today for the members, so stick around for that if you are a member. Otherwise, hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.
Upgrade your sleep with the award-winning Pod 4 Ultra by 8 Sleep, a smart mattress cover that fits easily over your existing mattress with adjustable temperature settings ranging from 55 to 110 degrees. You and your partner can each enjoy customized comfort on your own side of the bed. I keep mine at 60 to stay cool throughout the night. It even includes smart technology to adjust your mattress position, help reduce snoring. Plus, you'll have 30 days to see if it's the right fit for you. Visit 8sleep.com/Pacman and enter code Pacman for $350 off. The link is in the description. Finally, turn your desk into your dream workspace with an Uplift standing desk. Uplift Desk offers 200,000 different ways to customize your standing desk, limitless accessories, including power outlets and monitor arms. I've been using an Uplift desk for so long, way before they became a sponsor. While you're working, a standing desk really gets the creative juices flowing. I don't know what I would do without mine. Go to upliftdesk.com/Pacman to get up to 5 free accessories, free same-day shipping, free returns, and an industry-leading 15-year warranty, plus an extra discount off of your entire order. The link is in the description.